Let us begin. My friends, we left off on Daf Chaf Tet Amud Aleph. If you're following in the art scroll, we are on 29a2. Says the Gemara. So we've been talking about the two synagogues in Bavel where God's presence rested more than anywhere else. Okay, after the Jewish people left Eretz Israel. Ve'ehi lahem lemikdash me'at. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, the pasuk says in Yechezkel, and I will be for them mikdash me'at, a small sanctuary, a small holy place. So let's take a look at the full pasuk for 1 second. Can you see it's in the inner column on the Hebrew? Can you see it?
There's a lot of them.
There is a lot of them. Here, Dalid. Okay, so it's right around there on the page. You see it? Dalid in the Pesukim. Lachen emor. Therefore say, Ko amar Hashem Elokim, Ki hirchaktim bagoyim. When I have distanced them amongst the nations, in Galut, in other words, V'chi hafitzotim ba'aratzot, and when I spread them out across all the lands, Ve'ehi lahem lemikdash me'at, I will be for them a small, a minor, a small holy place, ba'aratzot asher ba'u sham, in the lands that they went to. That means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was promising them that when they go into Galut, the Bet HaMikdash on some level, on a small level, but will travel with them. They will have a sanctuary that goes with the Jewish people. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak said, Elu batei knesiot batei midrashot beBavel. Those are the synagogues and the study halls, the places where they study Torah in Bavel. God says, and I will be for them. Interesting. He doesn't say, and there will be holy places. He says more than that. Ve'ehi, and I will be mikdash me'at. So it's almost like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying that I will fill those sanctuaries, and when you're sitting there, you're present with me. Rabbi Elazar says, Ze bet Rabbeinu shebebavel. This is in the house of Rav in Bavel. Now, there's a difference of opinion as to what we mean when we say the house of Rav. Do we mean that when you went to Rav's house, you just felt that spirituality, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was there? Or, like we've already said numerous times, what is a Bet Knesset called? Or a Bet Midrash? It's called Be Rabbanan, the house of the rabbis. So the house of Rav doesn't mean the house of Rav. It means like the house that Ruth built. It's the place where Babe Ruth played ball. It's the place where he was able to, do his thing. So therefore, the Bet Midrash, of Rav was the Be Rav. Let's continue. Darash Rava. Rava learned. My dichtiv Hashem ma'on haya ata ita lanu b'dor v'dor. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have been our home, a place for us from generation to generation. What does it mean that God is our home? Elu batei knesiot batei midrashot. Those are the Bet Knessets and the Bet Midrashes of Galut, where God is our ma'on, our resting place. So we're able to, so to speak, come to Bet Knesset, come to Bet Midrash, and be with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now that teaches us a tremendous thing. A lot of people, they take for granted, they think, I could pray at home or I could pray in shul. And what they're not realizing is that aside from the fact that there's a minyan in shul, there's also something special about the shul. And a house minyan, no matter how many people are in it, is not the same as a minyan in a Bet Knesset. So coming to synagogue is very, very important. And we have to struggle and fight and figure out ways to get more and more people to come to shul. And that's a big challenge, because the people that don't want to come, so we do all sorts of events for them in their homes, in a restaurant, do a Friday night dinner for the singles, lots of different things. But we're not getting them into the shul, into the Bet Midrash. So Baruch Hashem, thank God, we're seeing a revival now of all sorts of people from all sorts of different levels coming to the Shabbat afternoon class. They're coming actually to the building. They're experiencing the idea of Ma'on Ata Hayita Lanu Dor Vador. Gemara continues. Yeah.
So fun in your house.
Sorry?
I said the class was so fun when we did it in the house.
It's true, but with our guys, I'm not worried about having the class in my house because our guys are guys that go to shul. What I'm saying is if you have people that this is their one chance to be in a shul, so maybe you have to think, maybe it's a good idea to have the class in the knis. Amar Abaya. Abaya says, Meresh in the beginning, Hava Garisina Garisna Bebeta Umatzilna Bebeknishta. It used to be, I would learn, where would Abaye learn? He would learn in his house, and he would pray in the Bet Knesset. Kivan dishma'it laha deka'amar David. Once I saw what David HaMelech said, Hashem ahavti me'on betecha, havai garisna bebek nishta. I started studying in the synagogue. What's Abaye saying? Abaye is saying, you just got finished telling me, Rava, that ma'on ata'it alana mador vador, Hashem, you are our home. We dwell in you. We sit with you when we come to a Bet Knesset and a Bet Midrash. Abaye said, oh my gosh, now that I know that the definition of Ma'on is a Bet Knesset and a Bet Midrash, so when I see that the Pasuk says, that David HaMelech says, Hashem ahavti Ma'on betecha, I love the dwelling place that is your house, I realized I'm going to shul to pray, but when I'm studying at home, because maybe it's quieter, I'm bothered less, but I'm not studying. You can concentrate better. Abaye said, it doesn't matter. It's not worth it. It's not worth the extra concentration of being at home when you can study in the synagogue, in the Bet Midrash, because there's an extra addition, an added bonus of the fact that you're studying with God. You're present with God when you're in a Bet Knesset or in a Bet Midrash. Fascinating. This is going to become ever more relevant when more and more and more people are learning on a phone. Guys, right? Because you think, wow, fantastic. This is so mobile. And when you have to take advantage of it because there's no other answer, there's no other solution, no problem. That's what it's there for. But we're living in a generation which is increasingly relying on Rabbi MP3, Rabbi MP4, Rabbi Torah Anytime, Rabbi AI, Rabbi iTorah, Rabbi Google, right? We have to get back to basics and bring people to the Bet Knesset, into the Bet Midrash, to be present with God. We have people that drive very, very far to be able to be here with us. It's it's impressive, but now we're seeing why it's so important. And you see Abaye, the only reason why he was learning at home was because he was learning better at home. And Abaye said, yeah, it's better in one way, but what I lose by not being present is more than what I lose by having more of that focus and concentration. You need to really understand how powerful that is. Now, I want to ask you a question. How could that be? How could it be? Learning is about understanding. Learning is about grasping. Learning is about figuring out what the Gemara is saying. Abaye is telling you I learned better at home. Now you're going to come to the shul, you're going to learn worse. How could that be better? Okay, so you're with Hashem, but I'm trying to learn Torah.
Because the purpose of learning is to understand and connect to Hashem.
Oh.
If the Shekhinah is there, then you're connecting better. You don't understand it as much.
Oh, so first layer of the answer is, well, what was the point of learning? The whole point of learning was to connect to God. So if you learned but didn't connect to God through it, what'd you achieve? Okay, good answer, Stanley. What else? Ironically from home. What else?
When you're in a Beit Knesset, you're surrounded by rabbis, you're surrounded by other Talmidei Chachamim. So for me, for example, just by their presence, I can learn how to act as a better person.
Amazing. Emmanuel is saying something brilliant. Maybe, allow me to paraphrase.
Please.
When I'm studying this thing, so I'm learning this thing, but when I'm in the synagogue and I'm exposed to Talmidei Chachamim, it's true. Maybe this thing, net, I wound up learning or understanding less, but I wound up seeing that rabbi pray and that great Baal Tzedakah give Tzedakah. I wound up learning a plethora of different lessons, and I wind up net positive in the learning experience. Maybe not in this specific study of Gemara, of whatever, but I wound up learning much more in the wider experience. The last thing I'll say is that you guys have all given very, very good answers. And I love the answers, and I just want to add one more bit. And that is that, let me tweak what Stanley is saying. Stanley is saying that the purpose of learning is connect to Hashem. If you connected to God more, but learned less, still a win, because the purpose of learning was connecting. I want to share maybe something, we got to go back a little bit to what we learned earlier. We learned earlier when we were talking about learning Torah, that the learning of Torah is not something which is only intellectual or linear. Rather, it's a gift that a person is given. We understood back then that it's a gift from heaven that a person should be able to understand Torah. It's a gift from heaven that a person should be able to remember Torah. So maybe on the physical act of lifting and intuiting and understanding, I may have come up short, or it may have taken me longer to understand something. But that has absolutely nothing to do, even with the effect of the learning itself. So Stanley's idea was genius because it divided it neatly into two categories and said, this is the purpose of that. I wound up getting more of that, but this was only a means to an end. I'm saying, even on the means conversation, who said I'm going to remember what I learned? That's up to Hashem. So maybe it took me faster to read it when I read it at home, less people bothering me. But who said that that's going to stick with you? Who said, never mind for later in terms of memory, who said that that's going to penetrate from your head to your heart? That's up to God. The closer the person's proximity to the spirituality of God, the more their heart is open. You could put so much wisdom in your head that doesn't make it to your heart, right? When the heart opens, what happens? Everything falls in. Where does a person's heart open? In the Beit Knesset. When they're close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so the Torah learning is on another level. Even if I learned less, achieved less, read less lines, the Torah learning itself is of a different quality in the Beit Knesset. Tanya, the Braita says, Rabbi Elazar HaKapar Omer, Atidim b'nei Knesiot, ובתי מדרשות שבבבל, שיקבעו בארץ ישראל. Guys, we've quoted this many times, okay? But here's the Gemara that everyone is quoting when they say it. That in the end, when it comes time for Mashiach, the Batei Knesiot of Chutz La'aretz will get taken to Israel. Shneimar, Ki kitavor beharim uchikamel bayam yavo. Just like Har Tavor and Har Carmel, right? Paro is going to descend into the ocean when he gets defeated by Nebuchadnezzar. What does that have to do with anything? Says the Gemara, isn't it a kal vachomer? For sure. Har Tavor and Har Carmel, we only use those mountains for 1 minute of learning Torah. It was a very brief element of Torah. Still, Nikba'im be'Eretz Yisrael, they were taken to Eretz Yisrael. Batei Knesiot u'batei midrashot shekorim marbitzim b'hem Torah. A Bet Knesset where they pray and where they learn all the time, not just for 1 minute or for one time where they made the berachot and the kilalot over there. How much more so are they going to be given the gift of being able to come to Eretz Yisrael? I was thinking about this the other day. You know, there's a Safra synagogue in Manhattan. Tish. There's a Safra synagogue of Brooklyn. There's a Safra synagogue of Deal. There's a Safra synagogue anywhere. But when the time of Mashiach comes, they're all going to get taken to Eretz Yisrael. You're going to say to someone, I'm going to Safra. How are they going to know which one you're talking about? There's going to be 50 Safras in Jerusalem, right? You're going to have to delineate a little bit more specifically which Beit Knesset you're referring to. Let's continue. Says the Gemara, Darash Bar Kapara. Bar Kapara explained, what does it mean? Lama teratzdun harim gavnunim. Why are you dancing? Oh, you mountains that have such high peaks. Yatzta bat kol v'amra. Bat kol came out and said to the people, to the mountains, Lama teratzdu din im Sinai. Tiratzdun means, why are you dancing, jumping up and down, okay? But tiratzdun can be divided into two different words. Tirtzu din im Sinai. Why do you want judgment with Sinai? Why do you want to go to court with Har Sinai? That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was asking those other mountains. Why? Kulchem ba'alei mumim atem etzel Sinai. All of the other mountains, the taller mountains, came with complaints. God, why are you giving the Torah on Har Sinai? Should have given it to me. It was made into a song by Uncle Moshe. I am a mountain so very high. I reach right up to the sky. The Torah should be given on me because I am as tall as can be. You see, there's a mountain that's high, there's a mountain that's wide, there's a mountain that's green, and none of those mountains were chosen. Only Har Sinai was chosen because it was appropriate to give to give the Torah on. So the Gemara says, what did God say to the mountains that came with complaints? How come the Torah was not given on us? He said, why are you, lama tiratzdun, why are you jumping? Tirtsudin, tiratzdun, why are you coming with claims against Mount Sinai? Har gavnunim, mountains which are so high. But the word gavnunim is also expression. You are all, ba'alei mumin, you are all blemished as compared to Sinai. Ktiv hacha, it says gavnunim. V'chtiv hatam, it says over there, ogiben odak. When it's describing the mumin that invalidate a kohen from serving. So giben is a person who has very long eyelashes. So that's considered to be a mum with regards to serving in the Beit HaMikdash. It means extraordinarily long, okay? So in a case like that, this person is considered a Baal mum. And you see, gavnunim, giben. No,
it worked.
Stanley, he had the kids at home Sunday morning.
I told you I gotta go.
Is that really? Oh my gosh! Wow, I did not mean as Musar. Mechila. Okay, but Baruch Hashem, you came. Watch, by the way, how much the increase. Okay, watch him come with an answer now. That's gonna knock us off our socks. By the way, Stanley just said he couldn't come here. He couldn't stay at home after that. He came to Rei Shul. Ashrecha. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to call. We're all going to call, by the way. We're going to do a group call to Jenny after the class. Okay. Ktiv acha. It says gavnunim. Ktiv atem. It says over there, ogi ben odak. That a person, ba'al mum is a giben. So you see, gavnunim is a mum. Amar Rav Ashi Ishmamina. What do we learn from here? Hayman diyahir ba'al mum hu. Psycho musar. Says Rav Ashi, what do you learn? You learn from here that a person who is arrogant is considered disabled. They're handicapped. Why? Where do you see that? What was wrong with this mountain? That it was tall. Nothing. Who made the mountain tall? Hashem made the mountain tall. Why are you calling a tall mountain disabled, handicapped, blemished? Why would you call it that? The answer is, it's not its height. It's the feeling that I should come and say, me. The Torah should have been given on me. I'm higher. I'm using the thing that God gave me, and I'm making it about me. So arrogance is a blemish. I was thinking to myself, now I could get myself a handicap pass and not feel bad about it. Because sometimes I'm arrogant, I think like everybody else, right? Now you guys well, where's the answer is, look, I'm arrogant. Guys, that's illegal. Do not do that. Morris Mystery is listening. 1 second, people, do you understand this? There's no blemish greater in a human being than ga'ava. You hear that? So the mountains come and say, the Torah should have been given on me, blemish. Could there have been another way that would have gone?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
What? How excellent. How could it have said it?
The mountains would have asked if they would have asked Hashem, please give it on me. If they would have asked...
How would they finish that sentence? Why should it be given on you?
Only because you made me this way.
So what?
You made me taller, therefore it would make more sense that it's given on
Why?
others. Because
You chose it.
Why would it make more sense to be given on me if I'm
I
tall?
would be able to honor Hashem, what Hashem gave.
The mountain would say, give it on me, but not because of me, not for me, for you, for the Torah. So if they would have come and they would have said to Hashem, you're giving the mountain, the Torah.
Your honor be on anything.
That's where it should be anywhere. It's about Hashem, it's about the Torah. If that's the way they would have asked, there would not have been a problem. And I think that's what the Gemara is telling us. Lama tiratzdun. Why are you coming with a judgment against Sinai? Your conversation should not have been about Sinai. What, him, not me? Your conversation should have been, Hashem, you made me tall. What else could be the purpose of my height but to bring you honor? My friends, it is not humility to ignore your heights, your talents. It is heresy to ignore your talents, to ignore your heights. Heresy. It's denying God to deny your skills, what's special about you. But the question is, what do you do with that? Is that about you? If it's about you, then it's dun, and then it's a tremendous blemish. But there's a way. If God gave you a skill to be able to speak, how could it be that that's not being used for the sake of Hashem? Morris, I'm talking to you now also. A person is an amazing orator. Fantastic. Now, how does a person who's an amazing orator use it for Hashem? You're very persuasive. So one way is, you do your job very, very well. You do it honestly. You give tzedakah. Then you used your skill for Hashem. I think we're learning here that's not enough. We're learning here from this Gemara that it has to be, I figure out how to use that skill in the service of Hashem. Not by proxy. Not via the money or via the job that I do or the way that I do it.
100%.
It needs to be used. Now, I happen to know, just as an aside, that Morris actually does this. God bless you. That if you use it as an example to convince community leaders to do something the right way, to convince someone to be honest, someone who comes to drop the case, to take shalom, then you're using that skill for the sake of God. But everything that Hashem gave you, He gave it to you for what? To be able to bring out more kedusha in this world, to connect people more to the world. And I want to just for 1 second, just hold on. If you had to describe what the moment of Matan Torah was, what was the moment of Matan Torah? What are they arguing about? What are they saying? The Torah should have been given on me. What was that thing, the giving of the Torah? What was it? I mentioned in the class just now, the Jews leaving Egypt with the 10 miracles, the 10 makot, was not a story about God. That was God introducing Himself to the world. That was Hashem giving a business card saying, hi guys, I'll be here all forever. Weddings, bar mitzvahs, funerals, whatever you need, I'm here. It was God introducing Himself to the world. What was the moment of Matan Torah? What was it? That moment was not a convenient moment like sometimes when I'm making kiddush in a crowded room, no one could see. So what I'll do, I'll stand up on a chair so that people could see. Number one, because people who could see you hear you better. Number two, because I learned from my own mother-in-law, there's sometimes people who find it difficult to hear. For them to be yotzei kiddush, they're supposed to watch you saying the words. So I try and get above the crowd. So maybe Hashem gave the Torah on mountain because that way the people could see. The idea though, my friends, is more than that. It's not just the physical sight. The higher something is, the more elevated it is, the more the people look up. When a person is looking up at something, when a person sees something and it's done, that thing is respected, you look up to it, then the thing itself is more powerful. What do we say when we do Kiddush Levana? Ki eresh shamecha. When I look at your heavens, ma'aseh etzbe'otecha, yarach kochavim asher konanta, right? Suddenly we say, Ma'adir Shemcha, how great is your name in the old. When I look at the heavens, when I look up, when the Jewish people are fighting Amalek, when do they win? When they look up. When a person is looking up at something, they're looking at it with respect. If I gave you the best advice of your life, but you thought I was a homeless bum, you wouldn't give it any time of day. If you got to meet for 3 minutes, 2 minutes with a guy, Elon Musk, you get to meet with some guy that you think has really good ideas about something, not about anything, but about the area you meet the best financial planner in the world. You had a minute with Warren Buffett. You're going to take the advice. You're like, oh, gotta ask you, I have this amount of money. What do you think my money's best? You're listening very carefully. You're going to pay attention very closely, right? You know, God bless. If you're a lawyer, someone got 2 minutes of your ear, right? And they ask you, what do you think is the best move I should do in this situation? Right? What does the guy say? He talks. You're listening like this. You're making notes, right? The whole time. What the mountains should have said was, Hashem, you made me tall. You made me very tall. Don't you think it's appropriate that the mountain that the Torah is being given on should be one which is of the greatest heights? Something where the people feel small just by looking at it? Hashem should have given Torah on Mount Everest. What does Hashem say? No, I give it. Hashem says exactly what's happening now. That's why I'm not giving it on Har Tavor. That's why I'm not giving it on Harim Gavnunim. I'm not giving it on the tallest mountain because the arrogance is such a blemish that it precludes one from service. Even if they're doing service, the arrogance precludes you from service. Why would that be? Let's say you have a Kohen who's doing service in the Beit HaMikdash, but he's a Baal Mum. The whole service is meaningless because he's not allowed to do that service. If a person is praying and studying, but they're arrogant about their learning, they're arrogant about their praying, they're arrogant about their tzedakah,
Missing the point.
it's not service. Why not? Because it doesn't serve Hashem.
Serves them.
It serves them. You're not praying to God, you're praying to yourself. You know? It's amazing. I prayed a very long Amidah. Look at everybody else. Bums. You're praying to yourself. You know, you feel so religious. Everybody else is nobody compared to you. What did you? Who? All those mitzvot? Who'd you do them for? For yourself. Hashem says, I can't give Torah. Torah and arrogance, they don't fit because one is the service of me and the other is the service of you. Right? Okay, let's carry on. Yes.
How do we balance then, like, the confidence to be able to, like, take on some service, use our characteristics or use whatever skill that we have to like glorify Hashem, but not necessarily like overstepping and possibly entering into like the arrogance.
Hashem, you made me amazing. People don't speak like me. People don't pray like me. You made me this way. You gave me such a sensitive heart that if I see someone on the street that needs something, I can't move. I'm paralyzed. Hashem, you made me so sensitive. Please, Hashem, allow me to use that sensitivity in your service. My Rebbe gave us an amazing trick. He said, one of the challenges of not feeling pride is that it's easy to do everything or nothing. So to be proud of yourself, easy. To have zero pride, I'm a nobody, I'm nothing. To beat up our self-confidence to the point where we feel like nobodies, easy. But what happens then? Like you said, if you feel like you're a nobody, how do you act? Like a nobody. So how do you manage both? He said something genius. He said a person should say, Hashem, you bless me with this unbelievable head, with this unbelievable heart, with this unbelievable wealth. But God, if you'd have given it to somebody else, maybe they would have done a better job with it than I am. I can't tell you the genius of that. Shlomo, you think you're good at speeches? You know how good, if he'd given your speeches, your thing, your head, your heart, your rabbiness to this guy sitting right next to you, he would do you plus 20%. Because the other thing that you do, and the other thing that you waste time on, and the other bit that you have challenge with, he would have overcome. Maybe. Not for sure, but maybe. Arrogance doesn't need for sure. Arrogance only needs maybe. You think you're the best? Who says? Maybe someone else with what you've had would have done better than what you did. Brilliant. I can't tell you what an equalizer that is. I think about that all the time. Okay, the Mishnah continues. En osin oto kapandria. You can't use a synagogue as a shortcut. When did we have this? Moshe? 30 seconds before the class. Trying to get up to my office. The caterers are using that elevator. So I went up with this elevator to the 3rd floor to walk across to go up. First of all, I should not have done that. I should have gone to the 1st floor, walked across the lobby, and then gone all the way up the 4th floors, right? But I was tired and I didn't want to walk up 4 floors. So what did I do instead? I went to the 3rd floor on that side. I walked across the Ezrat Nashim. I thought, because in my mind I was like, I'm not walking across the shul, but the Ezrat Nashim is also the shul. So what did we do twice? Like we said the other day. We sat down, we said the pasuk, and then we walked across. And then the other elevator was being used. And then the back door of the office was locked. So then we had to walk back across synagogue. Wow. I said Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, by the way, so many times today.
What is it? You get Olam Haba, you say it 3 times, you said it like 6 times.
Yeah, I think that means the whole thing, not just the first sentence. Okay. Let's carry on. By the way, can I tell you my suffix? Listen, rabbis have so many problems. You don't even understand. Because like you're thinking, when you're thinking, you realize that there's another problem with the other problem, right? I'm like thinking, oh, no problem. I'll just say the pasuk. But then I'm thinking, why am I going to the upstairs to the office? I wanted to use the bathroom. Do I need to use the bathroom enough that I'm not allowed to say the pasuk of Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha while I'm walking across the synagogue using it as a shortcut? These are the problems that rabbis have. Okay, let's carry on. En osin oto kapandria. You cannot make a bet knesset a shortcut. My kapandria. Amar Rava says kapandria kishma. What do you mean? It's what it is. Kapandria means a shortcut. It means a shortcut. My kishma kemanda amar adamakifna adare eyayul ba. Instead of going adamakifna, instead of walking around adare around the houses, eyul ba. I'll go over here. I'm going to take this shortcut between. That's a kapandria. Okay? Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yavau, Im hayashvil miikara mutar. If there was a pass through where the synagogue was, before the synagogue was there. So we built the synagogue on this shortcut. Fascinating. What's the halacha then? Then, miikara mutar. You're allowed to walk through the synagogue if there was a shortcut there before.
Was it already the natural path?
Yeah. So let's say as an example, between 63rd and 64th, there was an alleyway, exactly where the shul is, an alleyway that would take you through from 63rd to 64th. So you don't want to walk around to 5th or to Madison, you just cut across right in the middle of the block. Now we decide, we're buying this lot, we're building a shul there. We build a shul now on top of you'd be allowed to walk through the shul to get to 64th Street.
What's the reason?
Why?
Because it was always there.
You're not allowed to
That's not its primary purpose.
Why?
You're not allowed to close out a shortcut if people use it for
Excellent. So we'll get to that too. But you don't really need that. What you're saying is true, but we don't really need that.
Because it almost becomes like you disdain the shul because it took away your shortcut. Right?
Interesting. I like that. It's a psychological answer. But we have another answer that we've already seen. Batei Knesset shebebavel. You're allowed to eat in a shul. You're not allowed to eat in a shul or in a bet knesset or in a bet midrash. The Gemara said, "Batei knesset shebebavel," but the bet midrash and the bet knesset in Bavel, they built them al tanai on a condition. What was the condition? That they should be able to be used for this. So when you take a synagogue, that's only a synagogue, and you walk through the synagogue, what'd you do? You took a synagogue down from being a synagogue, and you said you disrespected it by being a shortcut. But when you built a synagogue on a shortcut, what is it now? It's a synagogue and a shortcut. Using a synagogue and a shortcut for a shortcut is not a disdain to the synagogue. Eating in a synagogue, which is a synagogue and a place that you built on a condition to be able to eat in, is not a disdain to the synagogue. Because you built that Tanai in, that was a usage from the beginning. So therefore it's not a problem. What you're discussing though is going to be the reason why it stays a Tanai. Let's continue.
That's very different than the example that you gave in being in the synagogue.
Explain.
Using a synagogue as a shortcut, you think if you're late and you're walking to work and you're late, you cut through the synagogue, you go in the entrance, you go out the exit.
Yeah.
That's different than if you're already in the building. The example you gave of going across the elevators, you're already inside the shul. It's one entity.
Okay, so like my rabbi used to say, I understand the chiluk, explain to me the mechalek. In other words, I understand the difference. Explain to me why the difference makes a difference.
because I would argue that if you're already in the building, then walking across the hall, or even once you're in the building, that's not using it as a shortcut compared to this.
So let's start. I absolutely agree and would tell you that it's much less of a disdain to walk from one side of the building to the other, especially if you're doing for purposes in the building, than to be on your way to work with a sandwich, just walk through the synagogue, turn it into a nothing. I agree. But when I'm on side A of the synagogue, and I need to get on side B, for all intents and purposes, it's exactly the same. In other words, there's a chiluk there. I understand that one could say that it's more disrespectful, but the fact that it's more disrespectful doesn't mean that it isn't disrespectful.
Not every difference makes a difference.
Yes, that's the nikuda. So he used to always say...
You're on fire.
See?
Is that why you came?
Start every shiur at home and then come.
That's a difference that makes a difference. But you see, this as an example is a chiluk maybe without a mechalek. Because I'm on side A of the synagogue, I need to get to side B. There's another way. If there's no other way of doing it, you'd be right. But if there's another way of doing it, and I'm doing for convenience, I'm using the synagogue as a pathway, that's disrespect, okay? So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Nachma, Amar Rabbi Avau. Rabbi Avau said, Im haya shvil mikara mutar. If there was a path before, allowed. Amar Rav Nachma bar Yitzchak, Nachma bar Yitzchak says, Hanichnas al menat shelo lasot kapandria. What happens if you went into a synagogue, you did not mean to use it as a shortcut? Mutar lasoto kapandria. Says Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, otherwise known as Jonathan Cohen. Why am I fighting you on this? Because I wanted to illustrate that it's not the opinion of Rabbi Avau. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak is adding something. So your opinion is correct, but it's not what Rabbi Avau is saying. So it's not taken for granted that that's what Rabbi Avau means. Because Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak felt that he needed to add that on. So what is he adding on? He says that once I'm in the synagogue already, and now I'm exiting the other side. So let's say as an example, I walked in on 63rd. My end goal is to get out to 64th, but I came in, I prayed. Now I have the option of walking through and going to 64th, leaving onto 64th. Maybe I should be obligated to walk out 63rd, walk around and go to 64th, because now, in the end, I would have used the synagogue as a shortcut. The answer of Nachman bar Yitzchak says, no. Once I'm in the building for a correct reason, it's not a shortcut to leave on the side that benefits me.
Because you achieved your purpose?
Because I'm leaving the synagogue anyway. Who cares if I leave this way or if I leave that way? What, you want it to be detrimental to me the way I leave? Right? Ashrei Oshrei Beitecha. It's good for you to sit. It's terrible for you to leave. You can check in anytime you like, but you can never leave. Welcome to the synagogue. Masechet Megilla. Let's go. V'amar Rabbi Chelbo. Rabbi Chelbo teaches Amar Rav Huna in the name of Rav Huna. Hanichnas bet knesset tipalel. Someone goes into the synagogue to pray. Mutar lasoto kapandria. He's allowed to make it a shortcut on the way out. Shneimar ubevo ama'al tzifnei Hashem b'moadim. When the people would come to Hashem on the holidays, habad derech shar tzafon lishtachavot yotzeh. Negev, when they would come up on the holidays, all of Am Yisrael would come up. By the way, I can't wait for that. There's a few things I'm like super excited about Mashiach for. A lot of things. I have a laundry list, but on my list.
I'm always trying to figure out how everyone's going to fit.
That's the miracle of Omdim Tzifufim, Mishtachavim Revachim. They stand squished and then they bow and it spreads out.
No, you're still squished though.
Sorry?
You're still squished.
Only standing. But when we bow, it's extra roomy.
Right.
Okay? So it's like Hashem flexing on the miracle. All right? Now, what's it called? There's a few things. Number one, to see all of Am Yisrael, by the way, past, present, and future.
Wow.
Yeah.
Standing together at the Beit HaMikdash. And the Kohen Gadol is going to do the Avodah, and he's going to get to the Baruch Shem Kevod, and you're going to hear all of the Jewish people, time immemorial.
Thunder.
That is like...
I want to their language.
That's number one. Number two, to see Techiyat HaMetim. To be able to run up and give your grandpa a hug. Huh? I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a miracle. You know why? There's going to be one chazan, and everyone's going to like him.
That's great.
The Sephardim, the Ashkenazim, the Hasidim, the 7 o'clock minyan, the 8 o'clock minyan. Everyone's going to be like, this Chazan is perfect. Another guy's going to be like, I totally agree. And someone's going to say, wow, it's amazing that Mashiach is here, right? You know, there's some beautiful things I can't wait for the time Mashiach comes. Okay, let's continue. Says the Mishnah. Alu bo asavim lo yitlosh mipnei agmat nefesh. The Gemara is now explaining what we already said with the Mishnah. If the synagogue is abandoned and it starts growing grass, we don't uproot the grass. Why don't we uproot the grass? Says the Gemara. Ve'atanya, but we learned, the Braita tells us, eno toleshu ma'achil. You're not allowed to pull out the grass and feed it to your animals. But aval toleshu maniach. You're allowed to uproot the grass and not feed it to the animals. In other words, just throw it away or drop it down. So if you see that the Baraita says it makes a difference between feeding the animals and just pulling up the grass, that indicates that, that it's mutar. The Gemara says, Ki tenan nami matnitan, tolesh umachil tenan. When we explained in the Mishnah, tolesh, rather than make a machloket between the Mishnah and the Braita, the Gemara decided to leave the Mishnah and the Braita in tandem and say, no, both cases are talking about tolesh umachil. You're not allowed to pull up the grass and feed it to the animals, but if you pulled up the grass and you just left it there, right, that would be allowed. Evidently, pulling up the grass and leaving it there still results in a agmat nefesh feeling. You still, agmat nefesh means like a feeling of sorrow, of upset, of mourning almost, right? That you look at the Beit Midrash, you walk in, it's overgrown, there's grass growing everywhere. It feels like terrible that the Beit Midrash is in disuse and disrepair. So when I feel that way, I pray, I do my best to restore it to for its former glory. So we said is if a person sees grass growing in a bit, can I say, I have to find you a synagogue. I visited personally, but I'm going to find you after the class an image of a synagogue in Europe, post-destruction, post-Nazis, post-World War II, after the entire community that lived there was wiped out. What's the Beit Midrash now? Nothing. And it's overgrown, and there's trees growing in the shul next to you look at it, it's like, it's the most horrible feeling. And we've prayed in shuls like that. You really pray to Hashem to restore the synagogue to its former glory. And it will be, like we said, when the Mashiach comes and the Bet Knessets are returned to their places. So says the Gemara, that's only Toleshu Ma'achil. But Toleshu Meniach, if you rip up the grass and you leave it there, it still makes a person feel bad, and it's going to make them want to pray to Hashem that the Bet Knesset should be returned to where it was. Now, the next bit we're going to continue next week because we're now shifting from a Bet Knesset into a cemetery. So we're going to continue from here, Be'ezrat Hashem. Sorry, not next week, on Tuesday. Baruch Hanei Le'olam.